Imagine a man entering a room, and in less than 10 seconds, all conversations die down, without him needing to smile, greet, or even look anyone in the eye. He doesn't speak. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't try. And yet, he is noticed. There's something in his silence that commands attention. An invisible tension, a vibration that fills the air and destabilizes those who aren't on the same level. And the strangest thing? He doesn't even know how dangerous he is. That's the man you haven't yet become. Not because you lack strength, beauty, or intelligence, but because you were taught the opposite. That conquering is about speaking well. That seducing is about being kind. That leading is about being expansive. They lied. The man who truly seduces is the one who remains silent while others stumble over their own words trying to prove their worth. He doesn't compete. He doesn't negotiate attention. He doesn't sell himself. He understands a brutal truth. Power isn't given to the most likable person, but to the most centered. And presence, it's not asked for, it's imposed. In a world that values constant performance, excessive words, and validation at any cost, true masculine power has become invisible. And this is no coincidence, it's strategy. Because if all men understood the effect of mastering their own silence, controlling their reactions, occupying space with minimal movement and maximum emotional intensity, the game would change, and the entertainment, self-help, and insecurity industries would collapse. This video is not just another tutorial on catchphrases, generic body language, or social tricks. This is a portal, a rite of passage for the man who is tired of asking for permission. We will explore, with the precision of a surgeon and the coldness of a strategist, 3 hidden layers of masculine magnetism. The silence that cuts more than words, the presence that alters the environment, and the emotional dominance that disturbs, fascinates, and hypnotizes. And we will do this without magic formulas, only with truths you've always felt but never dared to accept. If you stay until the end, you'll understand why women are more turned on by a man who observes than by one who tries to impress. You'll realize that true tension doesn't come from touch, but from not touching. That true dominance isn't over her, it's over you. And above all, you'll leave here with an inner arsenal that changes everything. Your posture, your speech, your gaze, your energy. Not to seem powerful, but to finally be powerful. They talk too much. They try to impress with rehearsed jokes, stories of past conquests, catchphrases they learned from some viral video. They tell stories, they explain, they justify. They desperately try to be perceived as interesting. But the more they talk, the less impact they have. The harder they try, the more obvious they become. They are like vendors at a street market, noisy, anxious, predictable. And all this comes from an unconscious addiction, the fear of not being seen, the panic of being forgotten, the desperation of not being desired. But the truth that no one wants to face is brutal. The man who needs to prove himself has already lost the game before it even begins. Seduction, contrary to what superficial books teach, is not a game of words. It's a war of perceptions. And in this war, whoever speaks first almost always reveals their weakness. Since childhood, we have been trained to believe that we need to be interesting to be loved. This has created a generation of performative men who live in constant presentation mode, talking too much, telling jokes, seeking praise, trying to make others like them. But the cruel paradox is this: the man who seeks acceptance becomes invisible, because every effort that reveals neediness neutralizes desire. The French philosopher Blaise Pascal said, "All of man's misfortunes stem from his inability to remain silent in a room alone." This phrase isn't about isolation. It's about self-sufficiency. Silence is frightening because it forces us to face who we really are, without distractions, without external approval, without masks. And if you are not capable of sustaining your own silence, how do you intend to sustain the presence of a powerful woman before you? Noise is armor. Excessive talking is a smokescreen to hide insecurity. But true power lies in the man who enters a room and doesn't need to say anything to alter the energy, who observes more than he comments, who provokes more tension with a look than others with an entire speech. Think of Thomas Shelby, in Don Draper, in Marlon Brando. Men who don't try to conquer, they impose their presence. They create tension with pauses, with silences, with postures, and above all, with the feeling that they are not there to please. They are there because they chose to be. And that choice changes everything. Now let me expose the big lie. You learn that you need to conquer by talking. But neuroscience proves the opposite. The female brain processes attraction cues primarily through nonverbal cues. Body language, breathing rhythm, the tranquility of gestures. All of this has a direct impact on the instinctive part of the brain, the limbic system. A woman feels before she understands. She perceives before she rationalizes. And in this scenario, whoever talks too much disrupts their own game. They break the magic. They interrupt the tension. They destroy the expectation. The truly seductive man doesn't explain. He suggests. He doesn't invade with words. He provokes with his absence. He doesn't need to convince anyone of who he is, because his energy already conveys everything. Instead of justifying himself, he creates curiosity. Instead of exposing himself, he leaves loose ends. Instead of vying for space, he strategically retreats. Because he understands one of the greatest laws of seduction. The more you try to be understood, the less mysterious you become. And mystery is the womb of desire. But why is it so difficult for the modern man to be silent? Because we have been trained in a culture of validation. From a young age, we hear that we have to be cool, communicative, funny. We learn that silence is a mistake, that time without words is awkward, and that if we don't occupy the space with words, someone else will occupy it for us. This programming creates an addiction, that of social performance. And like all addictions, it enslaves. It makes men predictable. And everything that is predictable is disposable in seduction. There is a brutal difference between the man who speaks with purpose and the one who speaks out of neediness. The first uses words like blades, sharp, calculated, silent before they cut. The second throws words to the wind, hoping one will hit the target. The first creates presence. The second begs for attention. And that's where the tension dies. Because tension only arises when there is a void, an interval, a gap. And the noisy one doesn't create gaps, he fills them with anxiety. See how this manifests in a real interaction. Two men, same party. One talks about himself the whole time, tries to impress with his achievements, laughs loudly, gestures excessively. The other observes. His body is firm, his eyes focused, his breathing slow. He speaks when he needs to, and when he speaks, the words seem to weigh heavily. The woman feels it. She doesn't know why, but she feels drawn to this silent man. It's not what he says, it's how he makes the environment react to his presence. She feels pulled by something invisible, something she can't control, and that is what makes her look back, even if the noisy one continues talking. There is an almost brutal beauty in the man who masters his own silence. He is not neutral. He is not passive. He is tense. He carries with him a kind of energy that is not ostentatious, but dense. As if every cell in his body were anchored in the present. He doesn't need the approval of the environment. He molds the environment to his presence. And that is one of the purest forms of power. The man who remains silent and observes, who reacts calmly and moves with precision, inevitably stands out. Because in today's world, where everyone tries to sell themselves, he is the only one who seems unattainable. And however contradictory it may seem, this man is listened to more than all the others. Because silence creates expectation. And expectation creates attention. Think about it. When someone remains silent during a discussion, everyone pays more attention to what they will say next. Silence creates suspense. It creates an aura. It creates authority. And in seduction, aura and authority are worth more than any compliment or pickup line. A woman doesn't want to hear that she is special. She wants to feel that you are selective enough to make her prove herself special. Nietzsche said that what is done out of love is always beyond good and evil. But what is done out of desire needs to be beyond despair. And the noisy man is desperate. Desperate for validation, for impact, for a response. The silent man, on the contrary, is above all that. He doesn't need the other person to feel whole. And this emotional integrity creates a magnetic field. Because what doesn't despair becomes desired. In the end, it all comes down to one principle. The tension you generate in the environment is proportional to the silence you can sustain without collapsing. This doesn't mean being mute or passive. It means being precise, intentional. It means speaking with your body, with your eyes, with pauses. It means choosing when to open your mouth and making each word a bolt of lightning in a calm sky. And above all, it means stopping trying. Because seduction isn't about chasing, it's about stopping chasing. And letting her run, because she can't understand why you're not making noise like everyone else. Now, if you truly understood this chapter, you should conduct an experiment. In your next interaction with a woman, speak 70% less than you normally would. Observe more. React less. Don't explain. Don't justify yourself. Don't try to show value. Just be there. Whole, centered, present, and observe how the environment responds. Because when man stops shouting, the world begins to listen. Have you ever been in a place where someone walked in and without looking, without smiling, without even saying good evening, made everyone turn their heads towards him? It wasn't because of his clothes, nor his status, nor his fame. It was something else. An invisible magnetic field, a silent density that made the surrounding environment yield. That was presence, and that's what most men spend their entire lives without learning to cultivate. Because real presence isn't taught in a classroom. It's not made of words, but of rhythm. It doesn't come from what you show, but from what you hold. It's the way you enter a place and seem to need nothing, as if everything is exactly as it should be. This disarms people. It intrigues, it awakens something primal. And in the case of women, it activates an instinctive radar that operates long before reason. She doesn't know why she turned to look. She just felt it. Something about that man shifted the air around him. And that can't be faked. The difference between being present and having presence is brutal, and almost no one realizes it. Being present is being physically in a place. Having presence is making the place react to your energy. It's as if your body emits a specific frequency that alters the behavior of those around you. And this frequency doesn't come from the ego. It comes from mastery, not mastery over others, but over oneself. This is where depth psychology comes in. The human brain, especially the female brain, reads the environment based on nonverbal stimuli. According to studies in behavioral neuroscience, 93% of interpersonal communication is nonverbal. Only 7% is what you say. The rest is tone of voice, speech rhythm, posture, microexpressions, gestures, and time. The time it takes you to move, the time you endure silence, the time you remain still while everyone around you is restless. Time is the language of those who dominate. But it's not about acting. Presence isn't a mask, it's a consequence. It stems from self-control, from knowing where your feet are, from understanding that the environment reacts to your energy, not your effort. When you rush, you signal desperation. When you fill the entire space with words or gestures, you take away the woman's opportunity to imagine. And imagination is where tension resides. Robert Greene talks about this in The Art of Seduction. He describes the silent charmer as one who dominates the environment without using conventional tools. He doesn't conquer through effort, he conquers through contrast. While others compete for attention, he creates an aura. He becomes scarce. And the human brain values what is scarce, what is not easily offered, what is not fully revealed. That's why great seducers throughout history have always understood the power of quiet presence. Napoleon, even with his stature, silenced the room when he entered. Leonard Cohen, with his low voice and calm demeanor, made crowds cry silently. And perhaps the best contemporary example, Cillian Murphy as Tommy Shelby. A man who almost never smiles, who speaks little, but who, even silent, leaves everyone around him tense, because his presence communicates danger, control, mystery. And that's worth more than any compliment or statement. Now you might be wondering, how do I develop this? How do I build this invisible presence? And the answer is straightforward. You need to slow down. Start with your breathing. It's the metronome of your energy. Breathe more slowly. Make intentional pauses before responding. Reduce the number of movements per minute. Look people in the eye for longer. Walk with intention, not with the need to arrive quickly. When you slow down your body, you slow down your mind. And when your mind slows down, the world slows down with you. Second step, occupy space with your body. Not aggressively, but firmly. Men with presence don't shrink. They don't shrug their shoulders. They don't cross their arms. They don't apologize for existing. They are there, anchored, stable, like trees that don't sway in any wind. This isn't arrogance, it's ownership. And women sense this. They approach, lean in, test, and when they realize you're there, not to impress, but because you're already the center of their own world, they lose themselves. Third step, be where you are. This seems simple, but it's rare. Most men are stuck in the past, worried about what they've done wrong, or the future, trying to predict what they'll say next. And this makes them disconnected, scattered. Presence is born from total attention. When you are completely there, attentive to what she says, to what she doesn't say, to the environment, to the details, you become different. Because today, nobody pays attention. Everyone is looking for what they'll say next. The man who pays attention becomes rare, and the rare becomes desirable. Fourth and final step, resist the need to prove yourself. Presence dissolves when you try to justify who you are, when you try to show that you're cool, intelligent, seductive. True power lies in the man who doesn't give everything away, who leaves gaps, who allows the woman to discover him little by little and even get a little confused in the process. Because what is confusing is captivating, and what is captivating is unforgettable. Presence, in the end, is about becoming a living question, something she wants to understand but can't. It's about making your energy say, "You still haven't deciphered me," and that in itself is seduction. So try it. Enter a room without rushing. Breathe calmly, feel your feet on the ground, look into her eyes without smiling, speak less, listen more. Don't react to everything. Don't fill every silence, leave gaps. Because when you understand that your whole body can be a message, you realize that speech is just a detail. And from then on, everything changes. People treat you differently. Men adjust to your presence. Women notice you even before you say hi, and not because you're doing something, but because you've stopped doing what everyone else does. And in the end, that's what creates the tension, the expectation, the aura. Presence isn't what you show, it's what you retain. And the man who retains his energy ignites her desire without even needing to touch her. Ultimately, women aren't looking for the perfect man, they're looking for the man who doesn't falter. Because at the heart of female desire lies a longing for security, but not the predictable security of the nice guy. What seduces is the man who represents emotional security with a touch of unpredictable risk. She wants to know she can trust you, but she wants to feel that, if she wants to, you're capable of breaking the world, and you only don't do it because you choose not to. That's power. And power, in the game of attraction, always wins over affection. The problem is that men have been raised the opposite way. They've been taught that being emotionally accessible is a virtue, that showing vulnerability indiscriminately is a sign of connection, that expressing feelings all the time is maturity. This has turned many men into wells of emotional anxiety. They cry too much, give themselves too quickly, get frustrated by everything, complain that she disappeared, that she doesn't answer, that she doesn't know what she wants. What they don't realize is that these constant reactions are poison. Not only do they kill attraction, they also put you in the position of the emotionally dependent. And desire doesn't arise where there is dependence. Desire needs tension. And tension arises from not knowing. The emotionally reactive man is a predictable man, and the predictable doesn't attract. What attracts is what doesn't fully reveal itself, what allows itself to feel, but chooses when and how to express it. The man who has emotional control isn't cold. He feels everything, but doesn't give everything away. He's like a dam, immense inside, contained outside. And the fascination he generates comes precisely from the fact that nobody knows for sure what he's thinking. He doesn't lose control. He doesn't defend himself. He isn't affected by other people's emotional games. He observes, and when he speaks, it weighs heavily. That's the difference between the desired man and the discarded man. The desired man controls his own emotional narrative. He doesn't engage in childish arguments. He doesn't need to win debates. He isn't offended by small provocations. When someone tries to destabilize him, he doesn't respond with shouts. He responds with silence, or worse, with a look. Because when you have emotional control, your gaze becomes more powerful than any words. Take the example of Ragnar Lothbrok, a barbaric, ruthless, but introspective leader. He doesn't lose control. He doesn't give in. He feels, but he feels strategically. His silences speak louder than his words. When his enemies try to provoke him, he responds with a calm laugh. When his wife challenges him, he doesn't shout, he looks. A look that carries the message, I understand you, but I don't belong to you. That is the dangerous man. The man who masters his emotions, but doesn't repress them. He is all intensity, but an intensity at rest. There's a current trap called romanticized vulnerability. It's the idea that a man needs to show himself in tatters to be seen as human, that he needs to expose traumas, show weaknesses, pour himself out emotionally. This might work in a therapeutic setting, but not in the game of attraction. Because desire doesn't spring from compassion, it springs from mystery. Not from pity, but from admiration. A woman wants to feel that you can open up, but you don't open up to just anyone. That you are capable of feeling deeply, but you carefully choose who accesses your universe. It is this selectivity that generates the "why is he like this?" and this "why" is what holds her captive. You need to understand that emotion isn't what you feel, it's what you do with what you feel. And it's in that space between impulse and action that your power resides. The most impactful men aren't those who don't feel fear, anger, or sadness. They're those who don't let those emotions control their actions. They are internal observers. They watch their own chaos calmly. And when they act, they do so with surgical precision. Emotional mastery is the ability to withstand tension without breaking. It's looking into the eyes of someone who provokes you and holding your breath. It's hearing something that irritates you and choosing not to react. It's realizing that the other person is trying to manipulate you emotionally and smiling as if to say, "I've seen this game before." This isn't coldness. This is emotional intelligence applied to power. And within seduction, this puts you above 99% of men who beg for emotional approval. Now think, how many times have you been rejected for being too much? How many times have you been too intense, too anxious, too reactive? She disappeared and you sent 4 messages in a row. She tested your limits and you gave in immediately. She provoked you and you exploded. All this shows only one thing. You lack emotional control. And if you don't have control over yourself, how can you protect her from anything? How can you lead? How can you be admired? The man who feels too much and expresses everything loses the enigma. And without enigma, there is no attraction. The great secret is this. The colder you appear on the outside, the warmer she needs to be on the inside to reach you. And it is this inner warmth of hers that generates desire. She tries to decipher it. She tries to penetrate your emotional barrier. And in trying, she gets involved. This involvement doesn't arise because you made yourself available. It arises because you made yourself difficult to read. And this difficulty activates a part of the brain linked to pattern recognition. It's instinctive. What is not understood is pursued. What is given quickly is forgotten quickly. You don't need to be insensitive. You need to be strategic. Use emotion like a samurai uses a sword, only when necessary and always with precision. Don't pour yourself out. Don't beg. Don't explain what you feel. Let it feel your absence, and it will come looking for what it didn't understand. This reverse movement is the heart of the emotional game. Practical technique. When you feel anger, desire, anxiety, stop. Don't react. Breathe. Observe what your mind wants to do, and don't do it. Wait. Change your focus. Give space to the emotion without acting. This, with practice, changes your nervous system. You stop being a slave to your emotions and become the architect of your energy. And this invisible architecture is what builds the kind of man who dominates environments, silences provocations, and generates tension simply by being there. There is material that was made exactly for the kind of man who understood what he just watched. Forbidden content, direct, unfiltered, created to activate in real time the kind of presence and desire that transforms any interaction into impact. I'm talking about the Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds. A complete audiobook designed to reprogram how you enter a room, how you are perceived, and how you effortlessly activate female desire. This manual isn't motivational, it's surgical. You'll learn specific techniques to generate tension in 60 seconds, from the first glance to the moment she questions why she's so attracted. You'll understand the 3 silent desire triggers that no woman can resist, the social gestures that provoke deep emotional reactions, and how to use your energy as a tool for environmental control. It's like carrying an invisible code that changes the game without anyone realizing you played it. Imagine being in any environment, a bar, a meeting, a party, and feeling that your presence alters the dynamic. People start adjusting their tone of voice, their eyes seek you out, Women unconsciously lean in when you're near, not because you said something, but because you became something. This isn't magic. It's strategy embedded in behavior. It's real mastery of social perception. And this is detailed step by step in the audiobook. If you truly want to activate invisible masculine power, you need more than good ideas. You need practical, to-the-point training that works in the field. The Forbidden Manual is that. And more. It comes with 3 bonus ebooks, including a map of female body language, instant tension triggers, and subtle, silent command scripts, all at 50% off for a limited time. Now, stop for a second and reflect. How much time have you wasted trying to be cool, trying to impress, trying to force a connection? What if the only thing missing was activating what you've always had, but never learned how to use? Power isn't about conquering. It's about not needing to conquer. It's about making her come to you without her understanding why. And the only thing separating you from that now is action. Click the link below. Activate your code. Unlock the man that already exists within you, but that the world has tried to silence. The invisible masculine power is within your reach. Now it's up to you to decide whether you'll continue watching or become the one who makes everyone watch you.